Welcome back to the old Photo Vault channel. Step back in time and feel the pulse of New York 100 years ago. A city alive with dreams, danger, and dazzling change. These rare vintage photos will take you through forgotten streets, untold stories, and moments that shape the soul of the Big Apple. Stay till the end, because every image hides a secret you've never seen before. The city never slept, even back then. Under the glowing marquees of the Roxy Theater, crowds filled the streets to watch The King and I, their laughter mingling with the hum of neon and the aroma of roasted peanuts. A few miles north, Bronx teenagers leaned on fire escapes, mocking the city's attempt to clean up for a day. Their signs said it all. The Bronx stinks, but it's home. Mister. Down on the crowded avenues, sailors fresh from war were playfully choked and cheered by strangers, their faces bursting with joy and exhaustion. The kind only victory can bring. Outside greasy diners serving ham and eggs, people craned their necks toward the sky, waiting for a parade, or perhaps just for something to happen in a city that always promised more. By the 1970s, even the theaters had changed. Bold signs screaming of adult films and broken innocence, echoing the city's darker, freer pulse. Times Square in the 40s was a sea of hats and hope. Thousands gathered to read headlines of war and peace, their coats brushing against each other in the crisp Manhattan air. The winter of 1930 froze everything but the city spirit. Men shoveled snow beside cars buried up to their headlights, while the Empire State Building rose like a promise in the haze. Deep underground, subway cars rattled with life. Men in fedoras reading the Times, women clutching handbags, everyone caught between destinations and dreams. On sunny afternoons, rooftops became secret beaches, where women in vintage swimsuits soaked up the rare peace above the noise. And from every corner, billboards and old cars lined the streets, telling a story that New York has whispered for a century, of ambition, resilience, and the eternal hunger to be alive. In Skyscrapers, Mark's place, the air smelled of rebellion and patchouli oil, as the young generation let their hair down, literally and figuratively, under the glowing hair sign of a counterculture awakening. Beneath the elevated train tracks, the city's heart pulsed in steel and motion, iron shadows cutting across the faces of those who dreamed in concrete canyons. Stark. On Harlem's sidewalks, children of every color played jump rope and stickball together, unaware that their laughter was rewriting the story of America's streets. A man in a tailored suit savored a hot corn on a street corner, while the vendor, sleeves rolled up, watched the world pass by. Proof that in New York, elegance and grit always shared the same space. The hustle of Times Square never ceased. Men in fedoras, women in floral dresses, and yellow cabs weaving through a world that glittered even in daylight. In a quiet alley, boys swung baseball bats with the passion of heroes, turning brick walls into ballparks and dreams into flight. Inside a train car lined with velvet seats, travelers exchanged glances and whispers, an unspoken rhythm of city life that connected strangers by motion. A woman bent gracefully to feed pigeons outside the Strand Theater, her fur collar brushing against the cold wind of Midtown morning. Naked. In a dim photo booth, soldiers and sweethearts smiled nervously for a 2-for-1 snapshot, a moment to keep before war or time could steal it away. Nalker, and in the heat of summer, kids danced under the burst of a fire hydrant, their laughter echoing down tenement blocks, the truest soundtrack of New York's soul. Crowds gathered on every fire escape, waving flags and shouting from above. The city itself seemed to hang from the bricks, celebrating something greater than any one person. On Times Square's buzzing corners, neon lights from Howard Johnson's era. Miller shimmered over men in short-sleeved shirts and women clutching their purses. A portrait of daily ambition beneath endless advertisements. A street lined with modest brownstones and snow-dusted cars whispers stories of old New York, quieter, slower, yet pulsing with the same restless heartbeat. At every intersection, rivers of people crossed between oceans of cars, Studebakers, Fords, and Chevrolets gleaming under the sun, as if the whole city moved to one mechanical rhythm. When winter struck, buses froze in place and strangers became silhouettes in a blizzard. New Yorkers trudging on, heads down, as if the cold could never win. Children perched on stoops, watching the day fade between the cracks of the buildings, their laughter filling the silence left by sirens and traffic. A shoe-shine boy crouched on the sidewalk, polishing a gentleman's shoes with quiet pride, the unspoken dignity of hard work glowing beneath the city's dust. Billboards of King of Kings loomed over the streets, where cars honked and dreams collided, faith, commerce, and cinema blending into the gospel of New York life. A fruit vendor sat by his cart, waiting patiently under the striped awning, his apples shining like coins of survival in the morning light. And somewhere on Mulberry Street, a bagel seller smiled beneath his cap, trading warmth and laughter for a few nickels, proof that the soul of the city was never made of steel, but of people. An empty intersection in Lower Manhattan stands frozen in time, narrow streets and old signs whispering of a city just catching its breath before the storm of modernity. High above the skyline, a daring photographer balances on a steel beam, camera in hand, as if trying to capture the very soul of New York suspended in the air. Anscow's crowds flood outside the Paramount Theater, where glowing marquees promise glamour and escape. The heartbeat of a city forever in love with its own reflection. On a Bronx corner, children crowd around a man with a boombox, their laughter echoing through cracked sidewalks, the rhythm of a new generation rising from concrete. Nori, in another borough, boys lean against stair rails and read aloud the day's news, dreamers in hand-me-down clothes, kings of their block. A group of young men sit idly on the curb, cigarettes dangling, eyes full of stories that never made it to the newspapers. The quiet poetry of city youth. Somewhere in Midtown, a performer balances perilously atop chairs high above the skyline. Defying gravity, fear, and perhaps life itself, just to make the city look up. A father and his twin daughters wait by the street, sunlight catching their identical bows. A fleeting portrait of innocence amid urban chaos. The pretzel man in Battery Park wipes sweat from his brow, surrounded by skyscrapers, a small figure selling warmth in the shadows of ambition. But time changes everything. Decades later, the streets overflow not with celebration, but with trash and silence. The ghosts of better days scattered among rusted cars and forgotten dreams. The streets of New York hum softly under the echo of horse hooves and the distant bell of a streetcar. It's a city caught between two centuries, where steel rails and wooden wheels share the same rhythm of progress. A man lounges on top of his Liberty cab, sipping from a bottle as the traffic inches by. An accidental king of the street, untamed and unbothered. A young woman walks past a row of men leaning against a brick wall. Their whistles and grins capture the flirtatious heartbeat of the 1950s summer. Across the Hudson, a couple stands silently, taking in the city's skyline. The Empire State glowing like a promise of endless dreams. Chetister, Times Square bursts with neon life. Movie titles flicker across marquees, drawing crowds eager for magic, drama, and escape from the ordinary. On a Harlem corner, A shoe shine boy bends over his work while soldiers and women pass by, all caught in the quiet rhythm of post-war life. On the Sup, a lonely intersection, marked only by a numbered sign, holds stories no one will ever tell, of shopkeepers, neighbors, and the hum of the morning trolley. Children duel with sticks outside an iron gate, their laughter rising above the noise of the street. The pure sound of New York youth. A sea of cars clogs Fifth Avenue, horns blaring like an urban symphony of impatience and ambition. And towering above the crowd, the giant billboard of "The Day the Earth Stood Still" reminds everyone that even in this restless city, time sometimes dares to pause. The streets are carpeted with paper, fragments of headlines and hope. It's the aftermath of a New York ticker-tape parade, where joy and chaos merge into one glittering mess. People sit among the confetti of dreams, their laughter echoing between the skyscrapers. High above the city, a daring photographer leans over the edge, chasing the perfect shot. From that dizzying height, New York looks like a living maze, alive, endless, and indifferent. A delivery truck parks outside the Paramount Theater, where Hitler's Children lights up the marquee. It's a snapshot of a time when even a trip to the movies carried the weight of a world at war. On a swinging scaffold, two painters share the stage with a confident woman posing against the skyline. Beauty and labor meeting mid-air in a rare, fleeting dance. In the back streets of tenement buildings, children climb the fire escapes like explorers conquering the wild. Their laughter, raw and fearless, is the heartbeat of a city that never stops reinventing itself. Times Square, the heart of New York, glows beneath the smoky breath of the Camel Man. The advertisement itself seems alive. A man exhaling real smoke into the cold air. Below him, the streets overflow with men in heavy coats and women hurrying through puddles, their reflections rippling with neon. Cars honk, newspapers rustle, and jazz echoes faintly from a diner nearby. It's a world suspended between war and prosperity, between shadows and electric light. Every face carries the rhythm of the city. Fast, restless, unstoppable. For the people of that time, this was more than an intersection. It was the very pulse of modern America. Children play jump rope along the sidewalks of Little Italy, their laughter echoing off brick walls. Tailors, barbers, and laundries line the street, the scent of bread and soap mingling in the air. Women hang laundry from fire escapes, while old men argue about baseball beneath faded awnings. Horses clatter by pulling wooden carts, their hooves striking a rhythm older than the city itself. It's a working-class paradise, humble yet full of life. These streets raised dreamers, immigrants, and hustlers who would one day define New York. And though time would change everything, the sound of those children's laughter still seems to linger here. At the harbor, fog rolls in as ships prepare to depart. Tankers, freighters, and naval vessels crowding the piers. Smoke rises from their funnels, blending into the morning haze that softens the skyline. Towering skyscrapers watch over the ships like silent giants guarding dreams bound for faraway lands. Sailors shout, gulls cry, and the air tastes of salt and steel. In these waters, the world's pulse meets New York's heart. It's here that wars began and peace returned, where cargo and courage flowed endlessly. The harbor is not just a place, it's the breath of the city itself. A woman steps gracefully from a luxury car, fur draped over her shoulders, as a doorman tips his hat. The grand iron gates of the Waldorf gleam behind her, whispering of elegance and privilege. Inside, champagne flows while the city outside struggles through the Great Depression. Yet here, time stands still. Wealth cocooned in velvet silence. Her perfume mingles with the scent of gasoline and rain, a contrast that defines New York itself. Glamour beside grit. Every glance, every gesture feels like part of a film that never ends. And in her poised smile, the city's vanity finds its perfect reflection. Engines hum beneath the overpass as cars glide into the Park Avenue tunnel. Flags flutter, horns echo, and the polished steel of 1930s sedans gleams under the midday light. Above, crowds gather on the bridge, waving proudly as if watching history roll beneath their feet. The city was learning to move faster, to live faster. Every turn of a wheel carried a promise that the future was mechanical, bright, and unstoppable. It was the dawn of the automobile age, and New York was its roaring heart. A silver plane slices through the sky above Manhattan, gliding past the Chrysler Building's crown. Below, the city unfolds like a map of ambition. 1,000,000 windows, 1,000 dreams stacked in steel and stone. To the passengers, it must feel like flying over the future. The hum of the engines blends with the heartbeat of the metropolis. In that moment, New York no longer belongs to the ground. It belongs to the air, to imagination, to progress. This was the era when people truly believed the sky was no longer the limit. A crowd gathers atop the newly finished Empire State Building. Men in hats peer through binoculars. Women clutch their coats against the wind, all gazing at a city reborn from ambition. Cameras click, history freezes. Below them stretches a world of industry and hope, shining beneath the haze. It's more than just architecture. It's a monument to courage during chaos. As they look down, they don't see the depression. They see tomorrow. From high above the East River, two great bridges stretch like veins across the body of Manhattan. The city glistens under morning light, its piers brimming with ships and warehouses. Smoke curls lazily from chimneys, drifting toward the horizon where industry meets infinity. Here lies the gateway of America, the place where millions arrived seeking dreams. Every plank, every brick tells a story of sweat and survival. And as the bridges cast their shadows upon the water, New York stands eternal, the city that never stopped building toward the sky. And so, as the lights fade and the echoes of the past dissolve into the night, New York remains, bold, restless, and alive. Every street still hums with the footsteps of those who dreamed before us. Every skyline shadow holds the whispers of another time. These vintage photos are not just images. They're windows into the soul of a city that refused to stop, no matter how hard the world became. If you felt the heartbeat of old New York through these moments, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video, so more people can travel back in time with us. Tell me in the comments, which moment of vintage New York touched you the most? Because history isn't gone. It's still here, waiting for us to remember.